So do you think these teams will hit their over? Starting off with our teams that are given for 11.5 wins this year. So do you think these teams will have more or less than 11.5 wins? We have the Ravens.
More.
Over.
What about the Buffalo Bills? Over or under 11.5 wins?
Over.
Kansas City Chiefs. Over under 11.5 wins?
Under.
Over. Under. Under. I'm going under. I got a little excited.
There are a lot of things that scare me there.
I think they could win 10 or 11 games and still win the Super Bowl. That's the problem.
They won so many games by the seat of their pants last year. It's just not sustainable.
I agree.
By the seat of a penalty flag.
Philadelphia Eagles. Over under 11.5 wins?
Over.
Under.
I'm going over. I think they're going to be the best team in the NFL.
All right. Moving on to our 10.5 win teams. The Detroit Lions. Over under 10.5 wins?
Over.
Just over.
Yeah, that one's tough for me. I'm a little worried about them, but I feel like even if they're not as good as they were last year, they'll still be over. So
the San Francisco 49ers. Over under 10.5 wins?
This was insane.
Yeah, this is insane. And I think the only reason why the 49ers here at 10.5 is because they get to play a last place schedule this year, finally, for the first time in a while. And
do people just think that injury regret, because they were so injured last year, they were so beat up, but it was a lot of their older guys who were beat up, Williams, Bosa, McCaffrey. I don't see them being more than a 6 or 7 win team. I'm taking a massive under here.
They lost so many guys on defense this offseason.
They did.
Like
they lost
so many important guys on their defense.
Yeah.
I don't see 10 wins. And if they get to 10 or 11 wins, it's only because they get to play a lot of really bad teams.
And some of those bad teams are kind of teams are on the come up. I think the Panthers are going to be better than they were last year. Although
they're going to be a pain in the ass to play against.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're going to win 5 games, but you're going to feel it.
Now moving on to our 9.5 win teams. We got the Cincinnati Bengals. Over under 9.5 wins?
Over.
Here's where I throw out my stat. Last year, the Bengals pressure rate with Trey Hendrickson on the field, 37.4. Without Hendrickson, 24.8. The Bengals sack rate with Trey Hendrickson on the field in 2024, 6.3%. Without Hendrickson, 2.9%. They have no defense with him. They have a negative defense without him. Joe Burrow cannot throw for 9,000 yards. They're not going to win 9 games.
I think there are, we'll hear my other prediction later, but I'm 100% going over. I'm very high on the Bengals this year. Did you watch them at the end of last season? They won their last 5 games, including that insane game against the Broncos. I think this is the year where the offense not just comes together because it's been coming together for a long time, but I think they're going to peak this year, that offense. I think this is a great year for the Bengals. I'm 100% going over.
They peaked last year. They scored 30 or more points 8 times. They went 4-4.
Hey,
how much more can you peak?
Yeah, somehow this defense might be worse than it was last year.
Based on the Commanders,
and they still don't want to pay the best guy on the defense.
The only good player they have. What?
That's a nightmare front office. The Denver Broncos. Over under 9.5 wins?
Way over. At least
for sure.
Over.
I'd be so shocked if they only win 9 games or have less than that. I'd be so surprised.
The Green Bay Packers. Over under 9.5 wins?
I'm going to say under barely because that division is just going to be so tough, and we don't know if Jordan Love can stay healthy. That's my biggest concern there.
I'm going to go just over and give Jordan Love a little grace here, but I think they're about a 10 or 11 win team.
I think they're a 9-8 team. I think the vibe is not the same as it was coming to last season. I don't know why. I'm under 9.5.
Yeah, especially with Love already being hurt heading into the season.
Yeah.
That's a real thing with his career now. It's just all the injuries.
Yep.
They've been piling up every year.
They do have a legit number 1 receiver for the first time since I think Curly Lambeau coach Don Hudson and Matthew Golden, so that's nice.
But he's wearing number 22, so
I know.
It's a weird fit.
It is.
The Houston Texans. Over under 9.5 wins?
Under.
Barely over because they play in the AFC South, and I love CJ Stroud and I love D'Amico Ryan's defense. They're going to be a nasty defense. I think they barely get 10 wins.
They have no plan. I don't think Stroud will make. I don't even want to say this. I'm not going to say it. There's a lot of protection issues that they did not fix. They sort of went.
They made them worse, Doug. They traded away their left tackle.
Like, we're going to trade away Laramie Tunsil. You're going to bring in Ed Ingram. Really? Okay.
Old strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
They're going to waste. They're going to waste a ton of defense, and it's terrible. But I see very little hope for that offense.
I'm going to go over. I'm thinking like a 10-7 team. I don't think they're going to be the team that we thought they'd be 2 years after that CJ Stroud playoff win, but Yeah, I think the Texans will win 10 games for sure.
Apparently, the authorities disagree with your position.
That's the fireman because my take was so freaking hot. So.
Hey, there we go.
The Los Angeles Chargers over under 9.5 wins.
Barely under, because that's a tough division, man. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get from that defense just yet. And Justin Herbert still very much in that Trevor Lawrence, like, we know the tools are there, but we haven't put it all together. I don't know. I think it's going to be hard to get out of that division with more than 8 or 9 wins.
I think he put it together in the regular season, and 4 picks against the Texans where he couldn't even get the ball, but without getting demolished. And now Rashawn Slater's out for the whole year.
Yeah.
I do want to see him elevate the offense, Herbert elevate the offense beyond his own abilities. I haven't seen that yet, but I'm a huge believer in Jim Harbaugh and his ability to motivate. And that Jesse Minter defense, one of the more untold stories of 2024. So I think they're just over. I think the Chiefs are going to take a couple steps back, and the Chargers will be able to pick it up.
I'm going to go under. It's purely because of the division, like you said. And while I do believe in Jim Harbaugh, which is why I would kind of want to be high on them, I also believe in Pete Carroll. I also believe in Andy Reid, and I also believe in Sean Payton. So that might be the most well-coached division I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. So someone has to lose some games, and I think it's going to be the Chargers.
Yeah, it is crazy that all 4 of those, coaches are second chance, third chance even, of great coaches from 15 years ago still in the league. Yeah.
They've all won a Super Bowl except for
Jimmy.
Well, Harbaugh.
I mean, it's just amazing.
But he won a national championship.
Yeah.
And he lost the Super Bowl just barely. So
what was that holding on that last play? Perhaps.
The Los Angeles Rams over under 9.5 wins.
I'm going to go under because I think Stafford's in trouble.
Yeah, same here. Barely under because I don't think he makes it through even a significant portion of the season.
And I hate that because, man, we're going to look back at Stafford and go, it's funny because we don't talk about it as a Hall of Fame quarterback now. 5 years from now, it'll be like, why didn't we say this before? Obviously, he is.
I'm going to go over. I think that defensive line is incredible. And look, Stafford's not out for the season, guys. We are worried about his health. I 100% agree there. But I think 2 seasons ago, he missed a large portion of the season. And then he got that team whipping just in time for the playoffs. I think the Rams, most well-coached team. I'm a big Sean McVay guy. Great defense. And, he's got weapons, Stafford. So if they do have to go to their backup for some games, if those backups can win 1 or 2 games maybe, if that even needs to happen, I think they can. I think the Rams, that's what I'm taking to win that division. But, so yeah, I'm going to go over.
Yeah, to me, they're a team that can turn it on so fast that if they mutter through half the season, they can figure it out really quickly and play with anyone.
They started 1-4, and Stafford was banged up. Kupp was out, Nakua was out. Then they had the bye. Then they came back and kind of put it back in gear. My gosh, I love the defensive line. I love Sean Dolak. I love Willie Lampkin, my favorite guy. I couldn't shut up about him on the best player available podcast. Mighty Might. Without a quarterback, and your second is Jimmy Garoppolo, and your third is Stetson Bennett, I don't know what you do with that. Unless they make a trade for Anthony Richardson and McVay is able to extrapolate something out of that, which I wouldn't bet on either. I think they're kind of stuck. And this is where, as much as they've drafted well, this is where the F them picks philosophy kind of gets you at the game's most important position, because you haven't really plotted it out past a guy who was already sort of in his golden years. I don't know.
Yeah, if Stafford plays all 17 games, I'll take the over. I just don't think
if Stafford plays all 17 games at his level, they'll win the division. They might go to the NFC Championship game, but
just
how certain are we of that?
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers over under 9.5 wins.
Over.
I'm going to go over here, and listen, the early part of this season might be rough. Again, Tristan Wirfs is going to not be ready for a few weeks. Chris Godwin's probably not going to be ready for a few weeks. Jalen McMillan, now he's out for at least half the season. It's going to be tough for them to be as good as they can be the first few weeks of this season. But this is a team that was 4-7 and 4-6 last year and the year before, and they won the division both years. Game within 8 points of going to the NFC title game a couple years ago. I think it's not going to matter. I think down the stretch, when they get healthy, they've got everything in place. They're going to have some improvements, some young reinforcements on defense. in that division. I think Atlanta will give them a run for their money, kind of like they did last year. Atlanta kind of faltered at the end there. But this is a team that, again, even when they're late in the season with a losing record, they have the leadership and the talent and the coaching. They have everything they need to right the ship and when it matters. They're going to do it again this year. They're going to win 10 games.
Bulls has 2 defenses, one with Antoine Winfield and one without. He had the one without too often last year. He gets that guy back. Whole different story.
I like the Bucks. Going over.
The Washington Commanders over under 9.5.
With Terry McLaurin over.
Yeah, I'm with Terry McLaurin over. I'm a little worried about their defense, but they have to bring McLaurin back, and Daniels is, everything we ever imagined he could be.
Yeah, I got to go over. With Jaden McDaniels alone, I think they could be absolutely incredible. You got the Giants in your division. That's 2 wins right there, probably. Probably get a win against the Cowboys. I'm kind of surprised their over-under wasn't higher. Not gonna lie, they ended the season on a very high note. I definitely like them to get at least 10 wins. Come on.
So they have a tough schedule because the NFC East plays the NFC North and the AFC West this year.
Ooh.
On top of them playing all second-place teams.
Yeah, that's
Damn.
gonna be easy.
Yeah, it's a tough schedule.
Yeah, schedule might be more of the problem than the actual team.
We got the Arizona Cardinals over under 8.5 wins.
Under.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Bang
What the hell?
Bang the under.
Chicago Bears over under 8.5 wins.
Barely under. Tough division.
Barely over.
8 wins.
9.
No, yeah, 8 and 9. Under.
The Dallas Cowboys over under 8.5 wins.
Under.
Shot and under.
Over 9 wins.
The Minnesota Vikings over under 8.5 wins.
Just over.
Just over.
Under.
The New England Patriots over under 8.5 wins.
This is a sassy pick, and I like it. I'm going over. I think they're a 10-win team.
Just over. Just over. I
Let's
think they
go.
win 9 games.
I'm a Pats fan, but I'm gonna go under. I think it's tough. I'll go 9 wins. We're going over.
We pulled you over.
I got Doug Ford and Luke
Easterling
Easterling taking them. I have to. That swayed me right there because I thought I was a little too high on them just because I love them. I'm going over.
I like this next one for what it represents. The Pittsburgh Steelers over under 8.5 wins.
Over because Mike Tomlin made a deal with some malevolent spirit or some otherworldly force to make sure they have a winning season. I don't know. Mike Tomlin's coaching. They're going to win 9 games. I'll bank on that.
They'll win 9 games because, as Tomlin himself would say, they have set themselves up to be perfectly cromulent forever.
10 and 8, going over.
And lastly, we got the Seattle Seahawks 8.5 wins.
Over
Under.
Under.
Moving on to 7.5 wins. The Atlanta Falcons over under 7.5 wins.
Just over.
I'll give them a pretty decent over bump. I think the defense is going to be sneaky.
I think we're going to see 9 wins over.
Michael Penix is really good, guys, and that offense has had the weapons for far too long without using them. That won't be a problem with Michael Penix Jr., and I do think that defense will be much improved.
I think the Falcons can be kind of sneaky good this year.
Yeah, I'm not happy about
it. The Indianapolis Colts, this must have been beforehand, over under 7.5 wins.
In the floor, under the floorboards. Under.
Yep.
I'm going to look up
what's under the basement.
But before what? I mean, I'm not high on Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. I think under.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't even know that whoever wins that job, it makes an impact at all.
The good news for the 2026 Eagles is that Shane Steichen can be their offensive coordinator again.
There we go. That would be great.
The Jacksonville Jaguars, over under 7.5 wins.
Over.
I'm going to go slight under. I'm just not as convinced. I've run out of rope with Lawrence. I don't get it. I got it for a while to a point. He played in such a simplistic college offense, and I figured Peterson and Press Taylor got him a little quicker in the pocket, but he's so logy. It just, you got to speed things up, man, or it's never going to work. I think under.
I'm going to over. 7.5 just isn't enough for me to be afraid of that. Over.
The Miami Dolphins, over under 7.5 wins.
Under because the only teams that talk about culture and needing it are the ones that don't have it.
Yeah, under. I think the Dolphins could be really bad. I don't say they will be, but I just wouldn't be surprised if this is how the Mike McDaniel era ends and it's just not good enough and they just tank this year. I don't think they're going to be very good.
Yeah, we already have Tyreek Hill acting up. They're going to go under. Dolphins, it's not it. Also, Tua could get hurt immediately. So
be interesting if they decide to move on from Tua after this year, how everything kind of shakes out for them. and Tua. And
for sure.
That's kind of what I mean. I think this could be the start of them having to blow the whole thing up in the offseason because it's just not working.
The demolition is nigh.
Moving on to 6.5 wins. We got two interesting teams here. Carolina Panthers over under 6.5 wins.
Under. I love Bryce Young's improvement. The defense is so bad. It's wretched. It's horrible to watch.
Yeah, they're going to be barely under that, but I think it's going to be a much improved offense. I think Bryce Young is finally going to look like a number 1 overall pick. I think there's some playmakers on that offense that are going to be pretty exciting, but that defense is so bad. I don't think they're going to be an easy team to play against most weeks, but I don't think they're going to win more than 6 games.
Yeah, I feel like 7 games would be a huge win for this team, and I just don't see them leaving this season being like, wow, that was a great season, so I'm going under.
The Las Vegas Raiders over under 6.5 wins.
Over. You tell Pete that he can only win 6 games, he'll win 7, somehow make the playoffs and get to the freaking championship game. That's Pete Carroll. I learned it from his time in Seattle over and over and over. If you tell him he's here, he will go just over it. That's just who he is.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough division, but I think they get at least 7 wins. They're going to be a tough team.
Hell yeah, definitely over. I'm high on them.
New Orleans Saints over under 5.5 wins.
I believe at this point Luke Easterling is the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Am I correct on that, Luke?
No. My rotator cuff says no, thank you very much. I did my time. Did you get a call from Kellen Moore? Are they? I respectfully declined the opportunity to play for the New Orleans Saints because that's just not in my soul to do so. I'm sorry. As a
we already had the Tyler Shuck discussion.
Bucs fan. No. Yeah, I was actually too young for them. What it is. I'll be 40 this year, and so that was it just wasn't quite old enough for their quarterback situation. Needless to say, under.
I think they're going to be the worst team in the NFL. I think they'll get the number 1 pick and draft Arch Manning. The Saints are going to go under 5.5, 100%. I might bet on that.
The New York Giants over under 5.5.
Over.
Yeah, I'm going to go just over. I think the defense is going to be decent, and I think they elevated the floor of the quarterback position enough to win 6 games. I think they go a little low.
I wish that I used them as my buy low team. I love that defensive line. The quarterback situation, I mean, I think – first, I'm going over 100%. But, you got Malik Neighbors year 2. There's a lot to be excited about if you're a Giants fan. Are they going to win the division? Most definitely not, but they're going to 100% go over this.
I like the entire defense. I like that they got Paulson Adebo from the Saints, very underrated corner. They got Javon Holland, very underrated safety. What I wonder about is Shane Bowen hates press coverage, a defensive coordinator, and in Adebo and Deonte Banks, they have 2 of the most press-heavy corners in the league. It's part of the reason that Deonte Banks couldn't stop throwing tantrums last year. Maybe coach for your guys' best attributes.
Maybe let them do what they do well.
Maybe once in a while.
The New York Jets over under 5.5 wins.
Just over.
I'll go over.
Under. Justin Fields, I can't rely on him as a every week starting quarterback. I think they're going to go under for sure.
And last, we got the Tennessee Titans over under 5.5 wins.
I'm going to go just over. I think Cam Ward is really, really damn good, and I think that they're going to be just good enough everywhere else to win six games or so. I think they're going to go over this.
Over. You know which quarterback in the 2024 draft was utterly ridiculous in the pocket because no one talked about it because he was so great outside the pocket? Jaden Daniels. You know who that guy is this year? Cam Ward. Best quarterback in the NCAA from the pocket last year. That tends to transfer. Titans will go over.
He does have that Jaden McDaniels calmness to him. I really do like him.
You keep saying Jaden McDaniels, and the Timberwolves fan in me is like, dude, that's not him.
One time we let it pass. 2 times.
I was going to say, somewhere Anthony Edwards is like, we got Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, so Cam Ward has a lot of that calmness that Jaden Daniels has. So I kind of think it's going to be a similar vibe of like the Commanders went from second to worst to, I don't know, really good. Titans aren't going to be as good as that, but yeah, 5.5. I think in that division, why not see 6 wins? Come on.
And lastly, we've got the Cleveland Browns who bottom out at 4.5 wins, over under.
I'll go over only because their defense was so beat up last year. They have the best defensive player in football in Myles Garrett. Denzel Ward is like a top 5 corner when he's healthy. I mean, yeah, the quarterback situation obviously is what it is, but I can see them getting 5 or 6 wins just based on the defense.
Yeah, same here. Major comeback. Yeah, I'm going to go slightly over here. I think that even if it's Joe Flacco for 17 weeks, I don't think he'll be bad enough for them to be the worst team in the league. And that defense is too many playmakers on it. And Myles Garrett, I think, is the best defensive player in football still right now. That's better than 5 wins.
I did a reel of Garrett the other day, and I was specifically looking at his double teams. And it's funny because when guys were double teaming him, they looked outnumbered. It's just like, wow.
I like those odds.
Yeah, I don't think you could have the best defensive player in football and win only 4 games. So I'm going over.
Tell the 1992 Seahawks that.
Oh.
I was born that year. They wouldn't. I couldn't speak.
Cortez Kennedy, baby.
Tez. We love you, Tez.